So get this, Australia has the least affordable housing market in the English-speaking world.
The Australian dream is dead.
I feel like you should know this. There is a mad rental crisis.
If you're a renter, you won't be surprised to hear that housing is the most unaffordable that it has ever been.
I can't afford my rent and to enjoy my life at the same time.
No, because you know what's funny? Is when you apply for housing assistance because you're too poor.
Rent in Australia isn't just high, it's outrageous, it's hostile, it's predatory. It's the kind of number that makes you laugh, then cry, then wonder how you're supposed to survive. Every lease renewal feels like a threat. Every inspection feels like a warning, and every rent hike feels like punishment for the crime of needing a roof over your head. Half your income gone. And what do you get in return? Moldy walls, broken heaters, and a passive-aggressive email about your untidy balcony. Landlords raise prices to match the market. Agents shrug and say, it's competitive. The government calls it supply pressure, but for you, it's a slow bleed. A monthly panic attack disguised as a rental agreement. Public housing, gutted, rent caps, non-existent, protections, weak, and the people profiting from this mess, they're not struggling. They're expanding portfolios, they're raising rents, they're watching the chaos from glass towers while the rest of the country panics. This isn't housing, it's extortion. And the worst part, you're told to be grateful, to just move further out, to get roommates, to negotiate, as if the problem is your lifestyle, not the system, as if personal sacrifice can fix a housing market built on speculation, greed, and government neglect. Australia's rent crisis isn't just about money, it's about dignity, about stability, about the right to exist without fear of eviction. And right now, that right is being sold to the highest bidder.
So I've literally had to put a filter on. My skin is not that bad, but I swear that the iPhone 13 Pro just makes me look like I have acne at all times. But the reason that I wanted to do a very quick video is for anyone who's moving out to Australia at the moment, I feel like you should know this. There is a mad rental crisis. I got to Australia like 3.5 weeks ago now, and I've only just realised it because I was travelling around, enjoying my life, you know, living my best life. Now I'm trying to find an apartment in Sydney. It is impossible. People, like, we applied for a lease the other day when we didn't even see the place because we're currently in Western Australia, but we really liked it and we were like, you know what, let's just apply for it. There were 20 other applicants. They didn't go with us, obviously, because I think we just offered what they were asking for. People are literally outbidding themselves. Like, I have secured a 6-week accommodation starting from the 1st of November, so I'm going to be homeless until then. But anyway, so I secured this for $550, and I only got it because the guy was nice enough to go with me because I messaged first. He was like, it's crazy, I'm literally getting offers for like $650. Like, people are just, for like a small 1-bed apartment, like it's not worth, basically, it's worth $550, but it's not worth $650, $700. So yeah, just a friendly warning, you might want to just look into some hostels, and Airbnb are probably making a killing right now. So I think that's what I'm going to have to do for 2 weeks until the 1st of November. We're going to have to just get an Airbnb somewhere like out west, like out of the city, and then traveling every day for work. I just want to find a nice home.
So get this, Australia has the least affordable housing market in the English-speaking world. In fact, they listed the least affordable cities. And what they found was in the top 15 cities, 4 of them were Australian: Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, and Brisbane. That list also includes Miami, Greater London, Los Angeles, Hong Kong. We also found out recently from the government's own report that of comparable countries and regions, Australia's had the 2nd highest rent increases. Now, why is this happening? Why is our housing market topping the world for being so utterly broken and screwing over millions of people? Well, for starters, the Labor government refuses to phase out the massive tax handouts for property investors that are driving up the price of housing and locking out renters and first home buyers from buying a home. How does it work? Well, over the next 4 years, the federal government will give $175 billion in tax handouts to property investors. Now, what that does is property investors then go to auctions, use access to those tax handouts to bid up the price of housing and lock out first home buyers and drive up the price of housing. We also know that in Europe, which has had the smallest rent increases in comparable regions, as per the government's own report, well, they have widespread use of rent caps and rent freezes. Now, in Australia, we have no regulations on rents outside of the ACT. So what are our solutions? Well, firstly, we need to phase out those massive tax handouts for property investors. Secondly, we need to freeze and cap rent increases like much of Europe does. And finally, what this report also found is Singapore has some of the most affordable housing, and that's because they have a government-owned public developer that builds homes and sells and rents them at prices people can actually afford, exactly what the Greens are proposing to do in Australia. There are solutions on the table. Countries around the world have found them. All it means is taking on the power of the banks and property investors and property developers that are currently benefiting so much from a housing system that, while at the same time, those same groups, the big banks, property developers, property investors, wield enormous power over the Labor and Liberal Party. So we're going to have to organise a movement that can take on that power, take on the Labor and Liberal Party, who seem hell-bent on screwing over millions of people and refusing to touch the mechanisms and levers that could fix this crisis like countries around the world have. It's pretty clear now that it's not just a global phenomenon that's going on around the housing markets, and we'll hear about how housing markets are unaffordable around the world. Well, guess what? It's worse in Australia. It is the worst. And the only way we're going to fix it is by copying solutions that other countries have used to fix their own housing systems.
There's a few issues with this, one being accessibility and the other being availability, because even if someone was eligible for social housing, the waitlist is between 3 and 20 years long. So let's start by breaking down eligibility. So as an example at the top, single with no children, maximum income per week before taxes is $609. Now, that is not a full-time income, and of that, someone has to pay rent, bills, expenses, and taxes. 2 single people can only earn $377 a week each before tax. Like, that is below poverty level. You basically can't be working full-time and be eligible for social housing. And the terrifying thing is that the eligibility for social housing is less than the current going price for a 2-bedroom basic apartment in Brisbane. That is terrifying. I inspected these exact apartments for $450 a week in 2018. So if you are eligible for social housing, you have to basically be homeless for 3 to 20 years before you even get anything. And if you aren't eligible for social housing but can't afford rent, you're in limbo and screwed anyway. Like, you can be working full time and still not get a roof over your head these days. And this is why we desperately need to regulate rental increases, as more and more people are being pushed into homelessness. Over 33% of the country is facing housing security as landlords try to milk as much money as possible out of the market and raise rents uncontrollably with no limits. Canberra has regulated rental increases, so why shouldn't it be on a federal level? Why does not every state deserve the same rental rights? And just so you know, social housing is not a handout. 25% of a person's income goes to paying rent for social housing. Australia does not have to be this bad. There's other countries, if you look at Europe, for example, that don't have this problem. Austria, majority of its citizens live in public housing. Social housing in Austria is completely normal, accessible, and well maintained. Australia can do better, and Australia deserves better.
Rent isn't just a bill anymore, it's a countdown. Every paycheck arrives and half of it vanishes before you even breathe. You're not living for yourself, you're living for your landlord. You're working to keep someone else's mortgage afloat while your own dreams collapse. And the worst part? It's not just the struggling or the unemployed, it's nurses, teachers, retail workers, hospitality staff, people with full-time jobs, degrees, and discipline, still living paycheck to rent day, still juggling overdue notices, still pretending everything's fine while quietly panicking about the next hike. This isn't stability, it's servitude. A system where shelter is treated like a luxury, not a right. Where landlords raise prices to match the market, while the government shrugs and calls it supply pressure. Where renters are told to just move further out, as if commuting 3 hours a day is a solution. Rent isn't just outrageous, it's hostile. It's designed to keep you stuck, exhausted, and grateful for scraps. And the message is clear: in Australia, you don't rent a home. You rent...
No, because you know what's funny? Is when you apply for housing assistance because you're too poor, and they give you a limit of a very low amount, which is what they are happy to pay for rent for you. And then they base it off your wage, and it turns out, apparently, according to the guy that I was chatting with, if you earn more, you get more. If you earn more, you get more. I'm sorry, but I thought that the whole point of rental assistance was because you are struggling financially and you cannot afford it. What's more important, living, eating, or having a roof over your head? You tell me.
Sydney is now less affordable than New York, London and Paris, according to new research. In a report released last week, the Committee for Sydney think tank found that Sydney was the sixth most unaffordable city to live in the world, after Hong Kong, San Francisco, Singapore, Vancouver and Tel Aviv. Sydney surpassed the three international benchmarks for chronic housing unaffordability, according to the report. Firstly, that the median property price is over 8 times the median household income for more than 5 consecutive years. Sydney's median property price is actually more than 13 times the median income. Secondly, that more than 33% of renter households are in housing stress, which is defined as spending more than 30% of gross monthly income on rent. In Sydney, 35.3% of renters are in housing stress. Thirdly, the report looked at the housing market as a whole and ranked Sydney's the second least affordable in the world after Hong Kong. Sydney's housing crisis is costing the economy $10 billion a year, measured in productivity losses. Long, inefficient commutes cost the economy $2.5 billion a year, and young residents were impacted by an inability to find affordable housing near work. Researchers noted brain drain was costing the economy $2.9 billion a year by impacting the startup economy, with people unable to bring business ideas into fruition. The researchers recommended Sydney be brought in line with other global cities by introducing an inclusionary zoning target on all rezoning to provide affordable housing in all new developments, as well as investing in social and affordable housing, and ensuring increases in housing do also come with good transport connectivity, access to services, and open space.
If you're a renter, you won't be surprised to hear that housing is the most unaffordable that it has ever been. Right now, there are just 352 homes that are considered affordable to rent across the entire country for a full-time worker on minimum wage. There are none for people on youth allowance, and just three individual homes for job seeker recipients. For the 900,000 people on job seeker, there are just 3 homes that are considered affordable for them. Students are dropping out. Workers are couch surfing. Families are going sick and hungry. And there are entire suburbs that have no affordable rentals in them. And meanwhile, Labor is demolishing even more public housing. Rents are still rising way faster than wages. I'm not surprised if you're feeling stressed out. This is the worst housing crisis in Australia's history, and the two major parties are still acting like it's business as usual. Labor has had the power to do something about this for years, but they don't actually care about renters. They care about their property developer friends. You should not have to live like this. We're not supposed to be constantly stressed out about making the rent for the month. And it actually hasn't always been like this. The fact that renters have to go through hell just to have their human rights met is not right. We all deserve to live comfortably and have a stable and affordable place to call home. And that's why the Greens are fighting with everything we've got to bring down rents, to make supermarket price gouging illegal, to build more public housing, to wipe all student debt and make TAFE and uni free, to put mental and dental healthcare into Medicare, to get a treaty for First Nations people and protect country, and so much more, because everything is connected. And we have a vision for the future.
Authorised by Gabrielle de Vietri, 188 Gertrude Street, Fitzroy, Victoria 3065.
The Australian dream is dead. The unit I rented as a broke fucking uni student for $550 a week, split between me and my best friend, for a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2-car park building in the city, Didn't have great amenities, doesn't matter, I'm a uni student, and it was just a nice place to live with my best friend during uni. And I was a broke fucking uni student who worked casual and I could afford that apartment. Now, that exact same apartment is $850 a week. And it's no longer furnished, so you're literally paying more for less. As a full-time worker who also works a second casual job on the weekends, I cannot afford the same apartment I had as a broke uni student 3-4 years ago.
If our rent and food and everything else if that's going to increase, I feel like taxes need to come down or our pay needs to go up, because honestly, I don't know how people are living. And most people are still struggling to find a job and a house, let alone these electricity bills going up, rent's going up, food's going up. You got, like what kettle chips are at Coles? 2 of them is like now $11. It used to be $3.50. Like, what? It's getting crazy. And there's not many people that's speaking out. There is a lot of people that's speaking out, but there's not a lot how.
Why I refuse to move back to Australia, even as an Australian. Because I'd rather fight mosquitoes the size of birds in Southeast Asia than pay $700 a week to live in a shoebox with a sink that cries at night. Australia, my homeland, my mate, is a financial horror movie. You know what's un-Australian? Charging $9 for a lettuce and offering $22 an hour like that's gonna fix my existential dread. You can't even buy a house unless you win the lottery, sell a kidney, and marry a mining executive. And even then, you'll still be outbid by someone's mum's investment trust. Oh, but you get great wages. Do we? Do we though? Because rent eats your paycheck like it's a buffet for broke people. Then taxes step in. Oi mate, let me hold on to that for you. Forever. And the job market. If you don't have 5 degrees and a side hustle by the age of 25, you're either a barista or a burnout. And God forbid you ask for a mental health day, they look at you like you asked to burn the Aussie flag with a Bic lighter and a packet of Tim Tams. And let's talk violence. Every pub turns into Thunderdome after 9 p.m. Every bloke named Kev has emotional issues and a neck tattoo, and is one warm pint away from throwing a schooner at your face. Even the birds are aggressive. Magpies wait all year to hunt you down like they're in a Liam Neeson movie. So nah, I'm not coming back. I'll stay right here, thanks. I'll stay here where rent is cheap. Violence is just bad karaoke, and nobody expects me to pretend I like Vegemite anymore. Australia, I love ya, but you're the ex who got hotter, meaner, and way too expensive to deal with.
Behind every rent hike is a story. A family forced to move out of the suburb they've lived in for years. A single parent working 2 jobs, still unable to keep up. A student living in a share house with 6 others, pretending it's temporary. A pensioner quietly packing up because the landlord wants market value. These aren't isolated struggles. They're everywhere. They're daily. They're the quiet crisis no one wants to name. And the human cost is devastating. Relationships strained, communities fractured, mental health collapsing. Now, people living in cars, in tents, in motels, while landlords expand portfolios and politicians give speeches about resilience. Public housing, gutted, rent caps, non-existent. Protections, weak, and the people profiting from this mess, they're not struggling, they're thriving, watching the chaos from glass towers while the rest of the country panics. This isn't just a housing crisis, it's a dignity crisis. A system that punishes survival and rewards exploitation. A system that tells you to be grateful for moldy walls and broken heaters while quietly draining you dry.
Hey everyone, let's have a look at the rental market in Queensland. I'll just turn this around somehow. Rightio, so I'm looking at, I don't know, I think I might have put in the Gold Coast, but I was trying to put in other areas. And now my computer's failing, but $650 a week for a 4-bedroom, 1-bathroom house. That's it. Not fancy. It doesn't even look fancy. But check this out. No wonder I'm fucking anxiety breathing. Check this out. I was also up doing some cleaning and got a bit short of breath. My iron's a bit low still. Just for a unit in Southport, which is down the Gold Coast in Queensland, $2,300 per week. $2,000 per week. 5 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, 2-car accommodation. So I don't know if that's a whole house, but it says townhouse. I would say it's just this middle one here that's marked in red. It's a fucking joke, Australia. Now, I've found Toowoomba to actually be just as cheap as Townsville, and they seem to be the cheapest suburbs in Queensland that I have personally seen. Townsville is like 14 hours away from Toowoomba, maybe more. But for a 2-bedroom unit with 1 bathroom in Glenvale, so it's those new ones, those little duplexes that they've got out, $360. Now that's the cheapest I've seen a unit like that. So Toowoomba aren't too bad in their prices for rentals. Here we've got another duplex, but the 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom one for $480 a week. Another townhouse for $520 a week. 3-bedroom, 2 bathrooms. You used to be able to get something like this for $300 and something a week in the rental market a few years ago. Another duplex, the 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom one, $510 a week. A 3-bedroom basic house with 1 bathroom. We don't even know if this has aircon. It looks like an old house with 2 garages, $550 per week. That was Toowoomba. But now you come down to Morayfield and you've got $650 per week for a standalone house at 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms and 2-car garage spaces. $650 a week. This sort of thing used to cost maybe early 400 and something a week a few years ago to rent something like that. This is Toowoomba again. 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, another townhouse type thing, $470. This is also Toowoomba, an old style 3-bedroom house with 1 fucking bathroom. Once again, we don't know if it's aircon, $560 a week. Is it airconned? It has got some air conditioning here. I don't know if it's in every room or just the lounge room. But this is just, it's getting beyond ridiculous. Toowoomba's actually cheaper than anywhere else in Queensland other than Townsville. But not for this nice. $650 per week, 4-bedroom, 2 bathroom. Used to be able to get something like that for maybe $500 a week. $400 and something a week years ago. Wow, actually something slightly reasonable. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, $500 a week. I was paying in Beachmere $500 a week for an older house, which was extremely high maintenance with constant palm fronds falling that I had to pay to clean up, not the owner. An outdated water tank I had to still click the little switch with, which didn't even make the water super hot anyway. With, did it have an aircon? A shitty old style box aircon for $500 a week for that year that in the last house they wouldn't renew my lease. For 1 bathroom and 3 bedrooms. And then you start getting out a bit. For a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom place, $730. Toowoomba again, $650. $460 for a little old cottage. I'm trying to go down. 3-bedroom cottage. I mean, I remember when a townhouse used to be maybe $320 a week or $280 a week or something like that. It's just beyond ridiculous, this rental crisis. $650 in the Morayfield area, which isn't even that flash of a fucking area. 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. $650 a week. Now, if you went to Sydney or anywhere else like that, you are fucked. You are fucked. Someone's selling, you know, just a little granny flat unit thing or 1-bedroom part of a duplex, $350 a week. It is just, it's insane. Huh, $1,000 a week. What? Because it's 5 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms? Nearly $700 a week. No wonder why people are living in tents in the suburb here in Morayfield area, getting charged $8,000 by council if they put their tents somewhere to try and live. Fucking pick up your act. The government. No, now let's just talk about hotels. They're also extorting people. $200 a night. I had to stay in a hotel about 3 weeks ago to go visit my mum. $200 for the night. And we got there late. We got there like 6 p.m. or something. Left at 7 in the morning. And I'm $200 down in my money and my budget. Just so we could sleep for the night in this hotel room. It's absolutely disgusting. Absolutely disgusting what they're doing. The hotel industry and the rental industry.
A society will collapse when an average person cannot buy an average house. We're in a situation in Australia where an average person can't buy an average home. If we go to war, and we're on the verge of World War III, if you cannot afford a property in a country to own and live in, why should you be expected to go fight a war for that country?
Yeah.
And it's so true. The fabric of society starts to break down when basic commodities like home and food, education, things like that, are now beyond the reach of the average person.
Yeah.
There is a fundamental bubble and issue in the way we're doing property and even like cost of living in Australia.
So here we are, the end of the month, the end of your patience, the end of pretending that this is normal. Because it's not. It's not normal to spend half your income on rent. It's not normal to fear lease renewal like it's a death sentence. It's not normal to live in constant anxiety about eviction. It's not normal to treat shelter, the most basic human need, like a luxury item reserved for the wealthy Australians. Rent crisis isn't just outrageous, it's hostile, it's predatory, it's systemic, and it's breaking people every single day. Every paycheck arrives and half of it vanishes before you even breathe. You're not living for yourself, you're living for your landlord. You're working to keep someone else's mortgage afloat while your own dreams collapse. And the worst part, it's not just the struggling or the unemployed, it's nurses, teachers, retail workers, hospitality staff, people with full-time jobs, degrees, and discipline, still living paycheck to rent day, still juggling overdue notices, still pretending everything's fine while quietly panicking about the next hike. This isn't stability, it's servitude. A system where shelter is treated like a privilege, not a right, where landlords raise prices to match the market, while the government shrugs and calls it supply pressure, where renters are told to just move further out, as if commuting 3 hours a day is a solution. Rent isn't just outrageous, it's hostile, it's designed to keep you stuck, exhausted, and grateful for scraps. And the message is clear. In Australia, you don't rent a home, you rent anxiety. Behind every rent hike is a story. A family forced to move out of the suburb they've lived in for years. A single parent working 2 jobs, still unable to keep up. A student living in a share house with 6 others, pretending it's temporary. A pensioner quietly packing up because the landlord wants market value. These aren't isolated struggles. They're everywhere. They're daily. They're the quiet crisis no one wants to name. And the human cost is devastating. Relationships strained, communities fractured, mental health collapsing, people living in cars, in tents, in motels, while landlords expand portfolios and politicians give speeches about resilience, public housing, gutted, rent caps, non-existent, protections, weak, and the people profiting from this mess, they're not struggling, they're thriving, watching the chaos from glass towers while the rest of the country panics. This isn't just a housing crisis, it's a dignity crisis, a system that punishes survival and rewards exploitation, a system that tells you to be grateful for moldy walls and broken heaters while quietly draining you dry. And yet, the government pretends this is fine. They call it market forces. They say it's challenging. They frame it as global pressures. But it's not global when landlords raise rent because they can. It's not temporary when families are forced out of their homes. It's not resilience when people are living in cars. They'll say Australians are resilient, that they're adaptable, that they're resourceful. But resilience isn't a policy. Adaptability isn't a solution. Resourcefulness isn't a safety net. These are survival mechanisms. And survival shouldn't be the baseline in a wealthy nation. The truth is simple. The government knows. They know the rent is too high, they know the protections are weak, they know the housing market is broken, but they're not fixing it. Because they're not feeling it, because they benefit from it, because they own the homes, they sit on the boards, they write the policies, they cash the checks. Australia sells itself as paradise, beaches, sunshine, opportunity, stability. But what does it mean when the people who live here don't believe it anymore? What does it mean when citizens feel trapped, exploited, and betrayed? What does it mean when the lucky country feels like a scam? It means the identity is broken. The myth is shattered. The brand is hollow. Because if working full-time still leaves you broke, if rent eats half your income, if housing is treated like a stock portfolio, and if the government keeps gaslighting you into thinking it's your fault, then what exactly are we proud of? Australia isn't losing its dignity because of global pressures. It's losing it because of choices, because of priorities, because of cowardice. And yet, you're expected to stay quiet, to keep working, to keep paying, to keep pretending, because if you speak up, you're entitled. If you complain, you're ungrateful. If you demand better, you're radical. But silence doesn't fix collapse. Silence doesn't feed families. Silence doesn't pay rent. Silence doesn't restore dignity. Silence just protects the people in power. And Australians are done being silent, done being polite, done being ghastly.